Welcome to Current Affairs with Faraz, your trusted source for unbiased, in-depth analysis of Pakistan's armed forces modernization and global geopolitical developments. We cover the Pakistan Army, Navy, and Air Force with clear facts and realistic insights. No hype, no bias. Stay sharp, stay informed. Today we're really digging into a nation that's under just immense pressure. Think about it. On one hand, an ally is dangling these incredible, advanced stealth jets. On the other, a different ally is demanding a really tough choice in a war thousands of miles away. And, as if that's not enough, a volatile neighbor looks like it's about to erupt into a conflict that could just pull the whole region in. This is the story of Pakistan's strategic tightrope.
All right, so to really unpack this, let's start with the first major pressure point, and that's the strategic rivalry heating up on Pakistan's eastern front.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. The entire strategic calculation in South Asia, it's being completely reshaped. And it's all because of one single piece of military hardware that China has offered to Pakistan.
So what we're looking at here is a real game changer. The J-35 isn't just another fighter jet, it's a fifth-generation stealth fighter. And what that really means, for anyone not deep in the weeds on this stuff, is that it's built from the ground up to be nearly invisible to radar. It's got this incredible sensor fusion. It's just incredibly hard to find and track compared to older planes. Honestly, it completely changes the rules of air combat. Right. And that's the key, isn't it? It puts it technologically a full step ahead of India's best plane right now, which is the French Rafale, a very, very capable 4.5 Gen fighter, but not true stealth. Even the Pentagon is on record saying this could be a massive boost for Pakistan's capabilities. They're calling it a potential stealth equalizer for the whole region.
And this chart, wow, it really drives home how deep this relationship goes. We're not just talking about a one-off deal for the J-35. Look at that number. Over 70% of Pakistan's major weapons come from China. Exactly. This is way beyond a simple buyer-seller thing. We're talking about a deeply integrated defense partnership. This has been built up over decades, with huge joint projects like the JF-17 Thunder fighter. It's a whole different level of cooperation. Okay, so on one side, Pakistan is bolstering its eastern defenses with China. But at the exact same time, it's facing a totally different kind of challenge, a real test of its diplomatic skills with its old Western partner, the United States.
And yeah, this is where that pressure from the West really ramps up. The U.S. is floating this idea of an international force for Gaza after the war, and they've directly asked Pakistan to send troops, which, you can imagine, puts Islamabad in an incredibly tough spot. It's a very public request, forcing a choice that pits their foreign policy directly against their domestic politics. There's really no easy answer for them here.
So Pakistan's response has been pretty clear. They've drawn a very firm line. It looks like they're okay with participating in a more traditional, neutral peacekeeping mission, something under a UN flag. But, and this is a huge but, they've said absolutely not to any force that's tasked with disarming Hamas. That's the critical difference, because disarming Hamas is a non-negotiable for Israel in this scenario. For Pakistan to take part in that, well, it would be politically just explosive at home.
But what's so fascinating is that this big disagreement doesn't mean the relationship is just falling apart. Not at all. It just shows how complex and frankly transactional it is. That's it exactly. I mean, think about the timing. At the very moment Pakistan is saying no to this huge request on Gaza, Washington turns around and approves these long-awaited upgrade kits for their F-16 fleet. And then you have President Trump publicly praising them for cooperation on counterterrorism. It's the perfect example of that strategic give and take that has always defined the U.S.-Pakistan relationship.
So, okay, we've got the China-India dynamic and the U.S. diplomatic pressure. As if that wasn't enough to juggle, there's a potential catastrophe brewing right on Pakistan's western doorstep with Iran.
In that quote you're seeing, that's not just some heated rhetoric from a low-level official. This reflects a very real, very high state of alert at the top levels of Iran's government. Right, the Iranian president himself has been out there saying they believe a massive war isn't just a possibility, but that it's imminent, and they're preparing for an attack on multiple fronts, not just from Israel, but maybe from the US and Europe too.
And for Pakistan, this isn't some far-off conflict they can watch on the news. A full-blown war involving Iran is, well, it's a total nightmare scenario. We're talking about massive security and humanitarian crises literally spilling over their border. Oh, absolutely. You'd be looking at a potential flood of refugees across a border that's already hard to control, huge disruptions to their trade, and just immense pressure from everyone to pick a side in a war they want absolutely no part of.
So when you pull back and look at the whole picture, it becomes really clear. These aren't three separate problems for Pakistan. They're all connected. It's like three different fronts in one single, incredibly complex, perfect storm.
And this timeline here just lays it all out so perfectly. You've got the Eastern Front, this escalating arms race with India, which is being supercharged by that military tech alliance with China. Then you've got the Western diplomacy, that really tricky balancing act with the US, where they're trying to keep their relationship alive without crossing these major red lines back home. And then, hanging over everything, is the threat of that regional war with Iran that could just throw everything into chaos. They are juggling all of this, right now, all at the same time.
So it all comes down to this, really. The big question is, can any country, no matter how skilled, successfully walk this tightrope, balancing these incredibly intense, competing pressures from a rival, an ally, and a neighbor on the brink of war, all at the same time? And, the answer to that question isn't just going to shape Pakistan's future. It's going to define the security and the stability of the entire region. Thanks for joining Current Affairs with Faraz. Subscribe for more real defense analysis, and we'll see you in the next update.